Come on, let's keep going. If you cannot talk about the situation, who are you to talk? Exactly, exactly. There's got to be some understanding on both senses of things, accepting of both senses of things. It goes deeper, but you got to be able to know how far to go with things too at the same time. I must allow with that at the same time. Don't take anything away from the scriptures. Never do that. Never do that. Just know how to swim. Be skillful in the echo. Don't be startled by the shout. Be skillful in the echo. Right. Let's go back. Um. Verse 13. For while our father Jacob had gone to his father Isaac, when the elder near to Ephrath in Bethlehem, Zilpah came drunk and was asleep uncovered in her chamber. Therefore, having gone and beheld her nakedness, I worked the impiety without her perceiving it, and leaving her sleeping, I departed. And immediately a messenger of Elohim revealed to my father concerning the impiety, and he came and mourned over me and touched her no longer. Chapter 4. Pay no heed, therefore, my children, to the beauty of women, to the beauty of what is birthed in many things, especially nowadays. People are just really caught up in the nourishing of a beastly system. They're really caught up in these things over here, not knowing that, you can do without. You know what I mean? At the same time. Let's keep going. Nor set your mind on their affairs. See how that view just really puts it all in view for righteous intensive purposes only. Right? Let's keep going. But walk in singleness of heart. Keep that beam out of your eye, out of your vision. Where being nailed in the righteous mind makes the righteous way, right? And expand labor on righteous works and on study and on your flocks until Yahweh gives you a wife, whom he will, that you do not permit as I did. For until my father's death, I did not have boldness to look on his face or to speak to any of my brothers because of the reproach. Right? Even to now, my conscience causes me anguish on account of my impiety. And yet my father comforted me much and prayed for me to Yahweh, that the anger of Yahweh might pass from me, even as Yahweh showed. From then until now, I have been on my guard and have not sinned. Therefore, my children, I say to you, observe all things, whatever I command you, and you will not sin. For the sin of fornication is a pit to the soul. So for the sin of looking out the way, out the way, literally, out the righteous way. Shalom, shalom. Hey, what's going on, bro? Brother. Great to see you. Great to see you, Brother Don. It takes an effect on the pit of a soul. It takes effect on the pit that the seed is put into. It breeds these things. It breeds out misconceptions. Looking in the wrong waters, put a lot of things to settle in the wrong waters, right? Let's keep going. The parabolic ways, these metaphorical ways, we start talking like this. Separating from Elohim, separating from the righteous way, and bringing it near to idols, bringing it near to fornication of the mind, fornication of the eyes, because it deceives the mind in understanding and leads young men into a terrible place before their time. For fornication has destroyed many, because though a man may be old or noble or rich or poor, he brings reproach on himself with the son of men and the derision with Balaam, or the wrong way. For you heard regarding Yosef, or the properly planted in the right place at all times. For you heard regarding this, how he guarded himself from such things, and purged thoughts from all fornication, and found favor in the sight of Elohim and men around him. For an example, and the Egyptian woman did many things to tempt him. The ways, because he went over there, ended up in Kemet. He did not fall in those ways. Yahasab, Joseph, was very strong, always being properly planted in the right place. The pit is not a place where he's destroyed or rejected. It's a place where value is hidden. That's all it is. You're supposed to go there. You're supposed to absorb different things in that dirt. It's a lot of dirt, yes, but it's your testimony at the same time. You were able to handle it. That's why I was given directly to us. Verse 9, for the Egyptian woman did many things, and summoned magicians, and offered him love potions, for the purpose of his soul, and bid it no evil desire. Let no evil desire in. Verse 10, therefore, the Elohim of your fathers delivered him from every evil and hidden death. For if fornication does not overcome your mind, neither can the evilness overcome you. Right? Chapter 5. Yeah, if you not laughing at it, but if you with that wrong, not the wrong, but the other mindset, you're gonna miss the message behind it. Always take a woosah, as we say, and breathe. But because it says, "For women are evil," you know, that's how it starts, chapter 5. But that's obviously not it. But there are unrighteous ways, right? There's ways you could get nurtured in the unrighteous places, right? That's basically what he's saying. And since there's no power or strength over there, or they have no power or strength over the righteous man, they use schemes by outward attraction for the ones that are weaker in the soul, that they may draw him to themselves, and whom they cannot bewitch by outward attraction, they overcome him by craft. So they make things, right? For moreover, concerning them, the messenger of Yahweh told me and taught me that these women are overcome by the spirit of fornication more than men, that they plot against men in their heart, and by means of their adornment, they first deceive their minds, and by the glance of the eye instill the potion, and then through the accomplished act, they take them captive. For women cannot force a man openly, but by a heart. No. We're not read all that for this platform. Jump down to chapter 6. I think. Let's see. Yeah, chapter 6, we'll jump down to verse 7, right? Jump down to verse 7. It says, "For Elohim gave sovereignty to Levi, or the priest, or the Levitical priesthood, the proper laws for the body, breaking down what the body properly survives off of. That can't be argued. The argument is that the single way of interpretation, that's where it gets to principalities. That's something we're not supposed to argue with. But one thing we can all agree in is that the Levitical priesthood, the book of Leviticus, the diets, the laws, everything like that, is extremely beneficial for the body, right? And to Yehovah or Judah with him, and to me also, and to Dan and Joseph, we should be for rulers." So that's one thing I liked when I read this. So for rulers, for rulership, for how you should rule, look into Levi, Judah, Dan, and Joseph. Great leaders in the 12 out of the 12. They're all great, but specifically these, apparently. That's what Reuben's saying. Verse 8, "Therefore I command you, listen to Levi, because he will know the law of Yahweh, and will give ordinances for judgment, and will sacrifice for all Israel." 1 second, they're making me do the puzzle. So they know it's me. Bam. All right. At least not doing that that restriction thing. I'd rather do the puzzle. Let's see. Yes, Levi, because he will know the law of Yahweh. He will know the way of Yahweh, and will give ordinances for judgment, for how to judge things and be around things, and will sacrifice for all of Israel with the consummation of the times. As the anointed chief priest of who Yahweh spoke, I will adjure you by the Elohim of heaven to do truth, each one to his neighbor, and to entertain love, each one for his brother, and draw near to Levi in humbleness of heart, that you may receive a blessing from his mouth. For he will bless Israel and Judah, because Yahweh has chosen him to be king over all the nations, and bow down before his seed, for on our behalf it will move on in wars, visible and invisible, and will be among you as perpetual king. And Reuben moved on, having given these commands to his sons, and they placed him in a coffin until they carried him up from Egypt or Kemet, and buried him in Hebron, in the cave where his father was. And that was the testament of Reuben. So, with that right there, we kind of see where he was talking about, be careful of what you allow to bubble up, be careful of what you digest, how you digest things like that. But not to skip over it, but the place that really hit me and really impacted me was how to see to be in the right place, the righteous position, having the righteous mind, and how it really happened with Reuben, Joseph, and the pit. So we're going to end this live, this Shabbat, with reading Jasher chapter 41, I believe. We're going to read through chapter 43. We might go all the way there. But we're going to kind of summarize things. We're going to read through, though. And also keep in mind the pit. The pit not being a place of rejection, but a place of value. Your value is hidden there, right? So chapter 41 of Jasher, we're going to start reading there. We're going to read all the way through. Keep Keeping in mind all the notes. Reuben, meaning to see. Yahasav, being constantly planted in the right place. There's always a solution. The wrestling that and the digestion. Also keep in mind the shout that Reuben gives. Not to be startled by the shout, but to be skillful in the echo. Let's see. And what also came from, these issues that came from Yaakov, or what came from the hand of Yaakov, right? Not to throw him under the bus, but just keeping all this in mind as we get to reading. So Jasher or Yashar, chapter 41. We'll start there and read through. And at the revolution of the year, the sons of Jacob journeyed from Shechem, and they came to Hebron to their father Isaac, and they dwelt there. But they fed their flocks and herds daily in Shechem, for there was righteous and fat pasture there in those days. And Jacob and his sons and all their household dwelt in the valley of Hebron. And it was in those days, in that year being 106th year of the life of Jacob, in the 10th year of Jacob's coming from Padan Aram. And Leah, the wife of Jacob, died. She was 51 years old when she died in Hebron. And Jacob and his sons buried her in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which is in Hebron, which Abraham had brought from the children of Heth for the possession of a burial place. And the sons of Jacob dwelt with their father in the valley of Hebron, and with all the inhabitants of the land knew their strength, and their fame went through the land. And Joseph, the son of Jacob, and his brother Benjamin, the sons of Rachel, the wife of Jacob, were yet young in those days, and did not go out with their brothers during their battles in all the cities of the Amorites. And when Joseph saw the strength of his brothers and their greatness, he praised them and exalted them, or extolled them. But he ranked himself greater than them and extolled himself above them. Basically, called himself better. He did a lot of tattle-telling. Again. And his father Jacob also loved him more than any of his sons. Played little favoritism, right? For he was his son of his old age. He was birthed at his old age, and though his love toward him, he made him a coat of many colors, of many ways, of many thoughts, because everything we see is through color, right? All versions, all mixtures of passions, all for what we need to see, probably being planted through all these colors. Verse 7. And when Joseph saw his father loved him more than his brothers, he continued to exalt himself above his brothers. And he brought to his father evil reports concerning them. Tattle-telling. Right? Verse 8. And the sons of Jacob, seeing the whole of Joseph's conduct toward them, and their father loved him more than any of them, hated him, and could not speak peaceably to him all the days. And Joseph was 17 years old, and he was still magnifying himself above his brothers, and thought of raising himself above them. At that time he dreamed a dream, and he came to his brothers and told them his dream. And he said to them, I dreamed a dream, and behold, we were all binding sheaves in the field. And my sheaf rose and placed itself on the ground, and your sheaves surrounding it and bowed down to it. And his brothers answered him and said to him, what does this dream that you dream mean? Do you imagine in your dream? Do you imagine in your heart to reign over or rule over us? And he still came and told the thing to his father Jacob. When he heard these words from his mouth, Jacob blessed Joseph because he knew what the dream really meant. It's about Shalom, Sister Sherry, Sister SJ. What's going on? Mothers given names have given forgotten stories of the deeds. Exactly. It was birthed from it. Right? And we're in Jasher, Honorable Sister SJ. We're over here in Jasher chapter 41, verse 13 now. I'm going to keep reading, jump back in right there. Verse 13, and when the sons of Yaakov saw that their father had blessed Joseph and had kissed him, and that he loved him exceedingly, they became jealous of him and hated him even more. And after this, Joseph dreamed another dream and related the dream to his father in the presence of his brothers. And Joseph said to his father and brothers, behold, I have again dreamed a dream. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. 11 outside of the 12. Right? 11, him being the 11th son, also Alav as well, nailed to that, always being properly planted in the right place, the meaning of Yahasav. Verse 15, and his father heard the words of Joseph in his dream, and seeing that his brothers hated Joseph on account of this matter, Jacob therefore rebuked Joseph before his brothers. He tried to cover it up a little bit, right? On account of this thing saying, what does this dream mean? What you have dream mean? And this magnifying yourself before who are older than you are. Do you imagine in your heart that I and your mother and your 11 brothers will come and bow down to you that you speak these things? Like, even I got him this time. But it ain't Joseph's fault that he's always properly planted in the right place. It's not his fault that he's the 11th one. You know, verse 17, and his brothers were jealous of him on account of his words and his dreams, and they continued to hate him. And Jacob reserved the dreams in his heart. And one day the sons of Jacob went to feed their father's flock in Shechem, for they were still herdsmen in those days. And while the sons of Jacob were feeding in Shechem that day, they delayed, and the time of the gathering of the cattle was past, and they had not arrived. So basically, they missed the opportunity. They missed their time, their divine timing and season. Right? Verse 19. And Jacob, that starts a lot of stuff. That springs a lot of stuff right there. Verse 19. And Jacob saw that his sons were delayed in Shechem. And Jacob said within himself, perhaps the people of Shechem have risen up to fight against them. Therefore they have delayed coming this day. And Jacob called his son Joseph and commanded him, saying, behold, your brothers are feeding in Shechem this day. And behold, they have not come back. Now therefore go and see where they are, and bring word back to me concerning the welfare of your brothers and welfare of the flock. Verse 21. And Jacob sent his son Joseph to the valley of Hebron. Joseph came for his brothers to Shechem and could not find them. And Joseph went around the field, which is near Shechem, to see where his brothers had turned. And he missed his road in the wilderness and did not know which way he should go. And a messenger of Yahweh found him wandering in the road toward the field. So wandering on a path, being properly planted in the right place to a field, which is a garden, thicker and thinner parts. Remember, keeping the garden mindset puts you in that guarded body position. And the messenger of Yahweh, so that's, a believer, another believer, right? Because that's what goes around. They were around their same kind, right? What happens when fruit is there and you must show your productivity? Exactly. So verse 22, and the messenger of Yahweh found him wandering in the road toward the field. And Joseph said to the messenger of Yahweh, I seek my brothers. Have you not heard where they are feeding? And the messenger of Yahweh said to Joseph, I saw your brothers feeding here. No, not saying that it wasn't a quote unquote angelic messenger, but definitely a messenger which just a, that's what they call an angel as well, a messenger, a believer of Yahweh. So it wouldn't be out of mind that he passed somebody that knew his brothers, right? Put this in realistic view. Somebody that knew his brothers, they know that they live there, they know they're around there. Joseph's walking. He got sent by his father to go look for his brothers because they should be back by this time. So he's walking, he's like, hey, that's the homie. Hey, you see my brothers, man? I said, no. That's what's happening right now. So always remember, like Sis was saying, LaCrystal, she was saying a little bit ago, like, these are quote unquote hood times, you know what I mean? In a view. This is like camaraderie view. If you don't want to use that terminology. This is civilization if you don't want to use that terminology, right? Everyone you're comfortable with, this is normal everyday life, right? So let's get back to it. Verse 22, and the messenger of Yahweh found him wandering in the road toward the field. And Joseph said to the messenger of Yahweh, I seek my brothers. Have you not heard where they are feeding? And the messenger of Yahweh said to Joseph, I saw your brothers feeding here, and I heard them say they would go feed in Dasan or Dosan. Verse 23, which is the door. If you break that down, the door through the Father or through the source for the properly planted place of protection, right? Look out for your people, right? See? Verse 23, they always looked out for their people, always kept track. They passed somebody like, okay, no, they're here. We looked out for each other. That's what I meant by the first term that I use. It usually happens there. What people call that, you know what I mean? Verse 23, and Joseph listened to the voice of the messenger of Yahweh, and he went to his brothers in Dothan. Also, side note, as I'm reading, not all the time people are named, right? They're not always named specifically for certain purposes. A lot of times people are named and names are put down because they mean important things, not to make other names belittled or sound more littler, right? I know that's not a real word, but we're going to throw that in there. But for righteous intensive purposes only, that's why these things happen. So a lot of times they'll say an angel, or they'll say a messenger, or they'll say this man, a lot of times, but they'll say Deborah, right? They'll say Bilhah, they'll say Adam, Iazar, or Adam and Eve. These are important things that you're going to need to know the meanings of. The names are authority, breaks down the character, breaks down the purpose where you can kind of relate things to where people are in their walk as we teach these things. A lot of people are really caught up in other brothers and sisters that were really more adamant about things a certain way. Not that you had to be louder or meaner or more evasive in wording, but just be more rooted. Really listen, really have a clear mind to absorb, really be in the properly planted place. Really be innocent like Joseph, even though he was a tattleteller. You know, but with righteous intent, you know. Just walk right. Verse 23. I'm talking to myself too, I'll laugh. And Joseph listened to the voice of the messenger of Yahweh, and he went to his brothers in Dosan, and found them in Dosan feeding the flock. And Joseph advanced to his brothers, and before he had come near them, they had resolved to slay him. And Simeon said to his brothers, behold, the man of dreams is coming to us this day, being mocking. And now therefore come, and let us get him and cast him into one of the pits that are in the wilderness. One of the pits that are in the wilderness. That's a salam moment right there. After we broke all that down. And when his father will seek him from us, he will say, an evil beast has devoured him. An evil beast of what? Even though you're properly planted in the righteous place. You keep all these things in mind as well. Verse 26, and Reuben, here goes Reuben. Now this is basically like a flashback. Yes, set apart the spirit. See, set apart spirit. I'm on. Reuben being again coming from the Testament. This is a flashback, right? We're flashing back Reuben to one of the ways, one of the I reckon, no, actually, two most impactful stories on his life, in his dreaming stage, his wallet protection stage, which is dealing with Bilhah and also with Joseph, the two most impactful parts of his life. So, with all that, that's even more of a big rabbit hole to dive into even more. But here comes Reuben in verse 26. And Reuben heard the words of his brothers concerning Joseph, concerning always being put in the righteous place. Joseph always being properly planted in the righteous place. And he said to them, you should not do this thing, for how can we look up to our father Jacob? Cast him into this pit to die here, but do not stretch out a hand on him to spill his blood. And Reuben said this in order to deliver him from their hand, and to bring him back to his father. Right? To throw him there and to come back later, but that's not how it works. Verse 27, and when Joseph came to his brothers, he sat before them, and they rose on him, and seized him, and struck him to the earth. Basically, they hit him. Boom, knocked him down. And stripped the coat of many colors which he had on. They ran his pockets, right? Verse 28, and they took him and cast him into a pit. And those are his brothers, too. That's crazy. Happens a lot these days. And they took him and cast him into a pit. They put him into a place where his value was hidden. He had to figure himself out, how to climb out. Or how to not even climb out. Boom. Thank you, Ravat. Not even to climb out, but to figure out how to be planted there. What to wait to see. What to come out of it. The first thing he did he didn't immediately try to climb out. He asked for the leadership of his brothers. Sometimes you got to realize being properly planted might put you in the place by yourself to be the teacher amongst your people. As we're out here teaching and giving the message and bringing the proper culture back into reality. That's all it is. The culture's been forgotten. So understanding can't really be gotten so easily. Let's keep reading. They seized him and took the coat of many colors. Verse 28. They took him and cast him into a pit. And there was no water in the pit, but serpents and scorpions. And Joseph was afraid of the serpents and scorpions, the stingers of wisdom, right? That were in the pit. And Joseph cried with a loud voice, and Yahweh hid the serpents and scorpions in the sides of the pit, but did not take him out the pit, right? And they did no harm to Joseph. And Joseph called out from the pit to his brothers and said to them, what have I done to you, and what have I sinned? Why do you not fear Yahweh concerning me? And am I not of your bones and flesh? And is your father Jacob not my father? Why do you do this thing to me this day? And how will you be able to look up to our father Jacob? And he continued to cry out and called to his brothers from the pit. And he said, O Judah, Simeon, Levi, my brothers, lift me up from the place of darkness which you have placed me. Salah. That's a big salah. O Judah, Simeon, Levi, my brothers, lift me up from the place of darkness that you have placed me, and come this day to have compassion on me. Right? Compassion. Here goes that compassion word coming up in these conversations, these places of back and forth of converting. Yahweh gives us conversation, the places where we convert and rest. You know, from Abba we come into Abba we return. May He be pleased in our return. Have compassion on me, you children of Yahweh, and sons of my father Jacob. Like, yo, we're better than this. And if I have sinned to you, are you not the sons of Abraham? Like, all right, if you don't want to go there, let's go before that. What about grandpa? You know, are you not the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? If they saw an orphan, they had compassion over him. Or one that was hungry, they gave him bread to eat. He's over here being Joseph. He's like, this is just not making sense. It's not, math ain't math. And like, all right, well, if you don't want to go to Potts, we've seen Potts tripping a little bit. What about Abraham? He tripped, but not too crazy, like, you know? He's like, if they saw an orphan, they had compassion over him. He's over here talking to himself out loud, talking to them too. But reasoning, you know, he's in this place. He knows it's not a pit. He knows it's not a pit. He knows this is a place he's supposed to think and figure this stuff out. I'm not understanding why y'all not acting right. He said one that was thirsty, they gave him water to drink. One that was naked, they covered him with garments. And how then will you withhold pity from your brother? For I am your flesh and bones. If I have sinned to you, surely you would do this on account of my father. Even if I've done you wrong, of course you would tell me at least what I did. Because this is our code. That's the code. Don't break the code. You know? Verse 32, and Joseph spoke these words from the pit, from that place. And his brothers could not listen to him. They couldn't hear him. They were already blocked. They were already covered. Those evil spirits, those spirits that came in to break up. Really, the evil spirits not even knowing they're going with the plan. They're doing Yah's work either way. You know, there's nothing over Yah. Yah knows what we're capable of. Yah knows what we can handle. Yah knows, hey, Job would be all right, right? He knows these things. And at that time, they couldn't listen to him. They couldn't incline their ears to the words of Joseph. So Joseph, in that return, was crying and weeping in the pit, one of the first stages. Verse 33, and Joseph said, oh, that my father knew this day that the act which my brothers have done to me, and the words they have spoken this day to me. Verse 34, and all his brothers heard his cries and weeping in the pit, and his brothers went and removed themselves from the pit, so they may not hear the cries of Joseph and his weeping from the pit. So, to the point where they were like, yo, I know we didn't do right, but guilty conscience still didn't even allow them to get him out the pit, so they walked away a couple steps. So, yo, we can't even take that he's crying over here in the pit. Chapter 42. Verse 1, and they went and sat on the opposite side, about the distance of a bow shot. So right on the other side, not too far. They didn't go too far. They didn't leave him out back too crazy like. And they sat there to eat bread. But what bread were they eating of? And while they were eating, they held counsel together. What was to be done with him? So these spirits that's taking over them. So also put it in a proper mindset. Like these spirits that's taking over them are gathering together right now. The souls of their brothers still fighting back in ways, but still being overcome. They were thinking whether to slay him or to bring him back to his father. In metaphorical sense, they were thinking of taking him out or taking him back to the source. Like, should we stay in this thing or should we go back to how we know we were supposed to be at? But there's a delay. And in delay, if you want to delay, God's going to teach you a lesson. He don't hold up. He don't speed up time. He will leave you there for character development. And that's just how he runs. From my experience, anyway. If anybody else has a different experience, you know, me on game, but from my experience, that's just generally how it goes. Verse 2, when they were holding the council, they lifted up their eyes and saw, and behold, there was a company of Ishmaelites, our brothers, right? Now we're going to break down this part of the story. So we get this in the right mindset, the mindset of Malachi Sadat, the order of Melchizedek. Also, side note, so the order of Melchizedek was something that preceded and was also entertained by Abraham and Lot. Those brothers that came to help him were in the order of Melchizedek. They were also brothers in the way, right? Righteous reverencing of different ways, but of the same way. There's an order of Melchizedek. And the King of Kings of that order, going all the way down to the image or the walk, the perfection of the Messiah, Yahashua HaMashiach, the Messiah, right? All the way back, all the way back. So yeah, the company of the Ishmaelites coming a distance. We're at verse 2 of chapter 42. Coming at a distance by the road of Gilead. I know that. I was trying to say Gilgad. Where did that one come from? Not important right now. All right, going down to Egypt, down to Kemet. Oh, that's where. Okay, never mind. We're good. We're righteous. My bad. That's how my brain works, y'all. That's how my brain works. Verse 3. And Judah said to them, "What gain will it be to us if we slay our brother? Perhaps Elohim will require him from us." Basically, the same thing in return. This then is the counsel proposed concerning him, which you will do to him. Behold, this company of Ishmaelites going down to Egypt. Right? So they're looking at this company of our brothers walking down the road, walking down to Kemet. Right? So we know Kemet, also where Yosab is going, also where he inbred, not inbred, but where he also met his wife and stuff like that. Before that, already Ishmael already being there, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all together. So they were going back home. Right? They saw them going back home, basically. Let's keep going. Verse 4. Now therefore, come, let us dispose of him to them, and do not let our hand be on him. And they will lead him along with them, and he will be lost among the people of the land. Now, they didn't say of their evil ways. They didn't say of their they said of the land. So he'll be lost amongst the people. Like he's not like he gonna go to some terrible place. Pretty decent. They ain't too crazy. They ain't too far. We got some differences in how we reverence, but they're not far off. Let's keep reading. And we will not put him to death with our own hands. And the proposal pleased his brothers, and they did according to the word of Judah. And while they were discoursing about this matter, and behold, the company of Ishmaelites have come up to them. 7 trading men of Midian passed by them, and they are passed. And as they passed, they were thirsty. And they lifted up their eyes and saw the pit which Joseph was confined. And they looked, and behold, every species of bird was on him. Everything flying of the air was on him. Verse 6. And these Midianites ran to the pit to drink water, for they thought it was contained water. It had contained water. So basically, they had cut off the Ishmaelites they were looking at. Looking at the Ishmaelites walking, all of a sudden the Midianites, walking, they cut them off thinking the pit is some water. So they run over to the pit thinking it's some water. Boom, they see Joseph covered with birds at this point. In a cooling place, right? Birds under a tree like we were talking about earlier. But let's keep going. Verse 6, and the Midianites ran to the pit to drink water, for they thought it had contained water. And on coming before the pit, they heard the voice of Joseph crying and weeping in the pit. And they looked down into the pit, and they saw, and behold, there was a youth of handsome appearance and well-favored. And they called to him and said, Who are you, and who brought you here? And who placed you in this pit in the wilderness? And they all helped to raise Joseph up, and they drew him out, and brought him up from the pit, and took him, and went away on their journey, and passed by his brothers. And these said to him, Why do you do this? Why do you take your servant from us and go away? Surely we placed this youth in the pit because he rebelled against us. And you come and bring him up and lead him away? Now then, give us back our servant. And the Midianites answered and said to the sons of Jacob, Is this your servant, or does this man attend you? Perhaps you are all his servants, for he is more handsome and more well-favored than any of you. And why do you all speak falsely to us? Now therefore we will not listen to your words, nor attend to you, for we have found the youth in the pit in the wilderness, and we took him. We will therefore go on. And all the sons of Jacob approached them, and rose up to them, and said to them, Give us back our servant, and why will you all die by the edge of the sword? Like, why won't you listen to me? Do you know what's about to happen to you? You know about our people. You heard about this, Midianites. You heard about us. Like, we're going to go down this road again. And the Midianites cried out against them, and they drew their swords and approached to fight with the sons of Jacob. And behold, Simeon rose up from his seat against them and sprang on the ground, and drew his sword and approached the Midianites. And he gave a terrible shout before them, so that his shouting was heard in the distance. And the earth shook at Simeon's shouting. Simeon's shouting, that be mindful of the shout, but Don't be shook by the shout. Be skillful in the echo. That shout right there. What does it say? It says the earth shook, expanding and contracting. There's a shift. There's something that happened from that shriek, right? From that yell, from that shouting. But be skillful in the echo. What caused that really sent a ripple effect, almost like the walls of Jericho effect type of thing. If we want to relate that. Verse 13. The Midianites were terrified on account of Simeon and the noise of his shouting, and they fell on their faces and were excessively alarmed. And Simeon said to them, I am truly Simeon, the son of the Hebrew Jacob, who has with my brother alone destroyed the city of Shechem and the cities of the Amorites. So will all Akim moreover do to me, that if all your brothers, the people of Midian, and also the kings of Canaan, were come with you, they could not fight me. Now therefore give us back the youth whom you have taken, lest I give your flesh to the birds in the skies and the beasts of the earth. Apparently they didn't want the Midianites, to get him. He's like, yo, y'all ain't cool. Y'all ain't gonna rock with us. Like, all right, we're upset with our brother right now. But yeah, y'all, no, that's not gonna happen, right? Verse 16, and the Midianites were more afraid of Simeon, and they approached the sons of Jacob with their terror and fright, with pathetic words, saying, surely you have said that the young man was your servant, and that he rebelled against you. So they tried to twist it up. And therefore you placed him in the pit. What then will you do with a servant who rebels against his master? Now therefore, so with that being said, sell him to us, and we will give you all that you require for him. And Yahweh was pleased to do this in the order that the sons of Jacob should not slay their brothers. Yahweh allowed this, right? There was a shift. From the Midianites, but then the Midianites changing up and being like, all right, well, do it this way, okay? Verse 18, and the Midianites saw that Joseph was of a handsome appearance and well favored. They desired him in their hearts and were urgent to purchase him from his brothers. And the sons of Jacob listened to the Midianites, and they sold their brother Joseph to them for 20 pieces of silver. 20 also represents Rosh, or the head of kingdom in Hebrew character as well. Keep that in mind. And their brother Reuben was not with them. He wasn't with them in these times. He wasn't there looking over the right place, looking at the person who was always planted in the right place, looking over his little brother. That also being a lesson. That always keep an eye. You can't just throw some things in the pit and kind of them like nothing's going to happen. Many times in life, coming from that, I think about like how many times I've left things I know I need to work on. And not that they're not the same things that have to be worked on, but now there's some more to it. There's some more twisting, there's some more searching, there's some more Kemet, there's some more Egypt like you got to go through in order to get to the point where you were just at to fix things. So keep an eye on things. Keep aware of what's going on out here. But also be mindful of nature. What I also realize too, because unless heaven and earth shall pass away, nature's still going to nature. So, with that being said, keep an eye on the nature of things. Now let's jump back in. Verse 20, they were going along the road. Before that. 20 pieces of silver, and their brother Reuben was not with them, and the Midianites took Joseph and continued their journey to Gilead. Verse 20, they were going along the road, and the Midianites regretted what they had done in having purchased the young man. One said to the other, what is this thing that we have done? And taking the youth from the Hebrews, stuff starting to kick in, who is of handsome appearance and well favored. Perhaps this youth is stolen from the land of the Hebrews. Even they knew not to rock with that, because stuff comes from that. They had a resolving of issues on the mind, even the Midianites. Oftentimes, even in life, even the ones that you wouldn't even think will hear you out. Let them get some Yahweh, Let's keep going. Verse 21. Perhaps this youth is stolen from the land of the Hebrews. And why then have we done this thing? And if he should be sought for and found in our hands, we will die through him. Verse 22. Now surely hardy and powerful men have sold him to us, the strength of whom you saw this day, after he yelled at us. Perhaps they stole him from his land with their might and with their powerful arm, and have therefore sold him to us for the small value which we he gave to them. There's a lot said right there. Verse 22, now surely hardy and powerful men have sold them to us. So they knew about them, even though they didn't really know, but they didn't really know who they just saw, who they really came across. That says a lot right there. Verse 24, no. Yeah, 23. And while they were thus discoursing together, or conversing together, talking to each other, there's a conversion happening. They looked, and behold, the company of Ishmaelites, which was coming at first, in which the sons of Jacob saw, was advancing towards the Midianites. And the Midianites said to each other, come, let us sell this to the company of Ishmaelites. That's to say a lot right there. Right? Who are coming towards us, and we will take for him the little that we gave for him, and we will be delivered from this evil. So why would they be delivered from this evil? By giving him to the Ishmaelites. Right? The order of Melchizedek. Right? So that's to change a lot of the misconception, because a lot, even when I came up in this truth, I was taught otherwise. Right? Until I read this and really put together, like, why would they do that if they were, so far off? Right? But just like us, there are ones that need some work. Right? There's ones on all of this, really in the truth, in the way. Yeah, let's keep this all in order. In the order of Melchizedek, there are many that need fine tuning. I still need fine tuning. Right? But now we can see right here, think that would relieve them from an evil. Verse 24. And they did so. Also, sidebar, if it was the purpose where they thought something would have happened, right? Or like, oh well, they would get the evil, or it would transfer off of us to go on to them. It was specifically say that, right? Word for word. So we can also cancel that out as well. There's a lot of literal, practical study and tips to really knock out a lot of the argument of principalities and things, right? Excuse me. Let's see. Verse 24, and they did so, and they reached the Ishmaelites. And the Midianites sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites. So we see the properly planted, the one that is properly planted in the right position at all times, getting shifted and moved around. So now Reuben, the lookout, the first son, the one that's always talking about the mind in the right direction, the mind in the right place, still waiting for everything for the day to end so he could go back to save Joseph. He thought that it was going to be okay. No, that's not it. With all this happening, right? Now he has to go through so much. We know later on in the story, they had to go through so much to find the one that's planted in the righteous place at all times. They realize, oh man, this is needed. We need to keep an eye on this to keep us in a direction, right? Let's keep going. Verse 20. Read that again. And they did so, and they reached the Ishmaelites. The Midianites sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, again, kingdom, which they had given for him to his brothers. Verse 25, and the Midianites went on their road to Gilead. And the Ishmaelites took Joseph, and they let him ride on one of the camels. Humility, that's also represented in the character Gaimal, right? And they were leading him to Egypt. So they took him, they let him ride on the camel. They treated him right. Leading him into Egypt, and Joseph heard the Ishmaelites proceeding to Egypt, and lamented and wept for this thing, that he was to be so far removed from the land of Canaan, from his father. And he wept because he was going so much farther away. Remember, he's young. He's still young at this time. Right? He's not even allowed to go out to battles and stuff yet. Right? He was just sent on a simple task to go find his brothers. But now he's ended up on a camel all the way to Egypt. Not able to really fight against grown people. You know what I mean? Not even, again, not saying that they were over here trying to do him so dirty, right? But they knew that somebody was looking for somebody to help them in their house. Islam, General Yasai, what's going on, big bro? They knew that somebody was over here that needed somebody to run their house. So they're really taking them into a position knowing all these things, knowing. So let's keep reading, right? All right. Tada, brother. Tada for the compliment. Brother Don, Pastor Don. Whatever terminology you like to use, no intent on offending. Let's keep going. We just said 42, that was the end. Yeah, he lamented from his father and wept bitterly while he was riding on the camel. And one of their men observed him and made made him go down from the camel and walk on foot. Right? And notwithstanding this, Joseph continued to cry and weep, and he said, "O father, my father." And one of the Ishmaelites rose up and struck Joseph on the cheek, and still he continued to weep. Right? There was some differences. Righteous education. Exactly. That's it. That's it. All together, all as one, in one way. Right? The order. Joseph was fatigued in the road and was unable to proceed on account of the bitterness of his soul. And they all struck him and afflicted him in the road. And they terrified him in order that he might cease from weeping. And Yahweh saw the ambition of Joseph and his trouble. And Yahweh brought down those men in darkness and confusion. And the hand of everyone that struck him became withered. And they said to each other, "What is this thing that Elohim has done to us in the road?" Like, well, what happened? What happened? Like I said, they needed some work. They weren't always right. Brothers fight brothers. They were irritated. It's hot outside. This dude keep on, these things come about naturally. Right? Yah took their hands, they struck them, became withered, and they said to each other, literally, if you have your book of Jasher, verse 29, they said literally, "What is this thing that Elohim has done to us in the road?" Talking about, what is this that Abba did to us? I thought we were good. And they did not know that this befell them on account of Joseph. And men proceeded on the road, and they passed along the road of Ephrath, where Rachel was buried. And Joseph reached his mother's grave, and Joseph hastened and ran to his mother's grave, and fell on the grave and wept. And Joseph cried aloud in his mother's grave and said, "Oh, my mother, oh, you who gave birth to me, awake now and rise and see your son. He has been sold for a slave, and there is no one to pity him. Oh, rise and see your son. Weep with me on account of my troubles, and see the heart of my brothers. Arouse, my mother, arise. Wake from your sleep for me to direct for me and direct your battle against my brothers." That says a lot right there. That says a lot. We're going to leave that alone for today, but that says a lot. That says a lot. Oh, how they have stripped coat and sold me already twice for a slave, and separated me from my father, and there is no one to pity me. Arouse and lay your cause against them before Elohim. Stir up, basically. Make these things happen. There's a stir. You got to see what's in the stir, right? It all comes together. That's what I'm saying. I see what y'all was doing. I was a little impatient. Like, I would love to see one of those real life things. That's what I was trying to say. One of those real life. But back to reading. Let's see. Verse 35. "Rise, O mother, rise, awake from your sleep, and see my father, how his soul is with me this day, and comfort him, and ease his heart." Verse 36. "And Joseph continued to speak these words, and Joseph cried aloud, and wept bitterly on his mother's grave. And he ceased speaking from bitterness of heart, and he became still as a stone in the grave. And Joseph heard a voice speaking to him from beneath the ground, which answered him with bitterness of heart, voice of weeping and praying in these words, my son Joseph, I have heard the voice of your weeping and the voice of your lamentation. I have heard your tears. I know your troubles, my son, and it grieves me for your sake. And abundant grief is added to my grief." He's meditating in his call, in his shout, meditating on that voice, right? In that direction, in that motion of thought. The thought and motion comes back to this, right? Let's keep going. Verse 39, "Now therefore, my son Joseph, hope on Yahweh and wait for him. And do not fear, for Yahweh is with you. He will deliver you from all trouble." Verse 40, "Rise, my son, go down to Egypt or Kemet with your masters," or Mizraim, a lot of different translations, "with your masters." Wait, let's go back. That just stood out. Verse 39, "Now therefore, my son Joseph, hope on Yahweh and wait for him. And do not fear, for Yahweh deliver you from all trouble. Rise, my son, and go down to Egypt with your masters, and do not fear, for Yahweh is with you, my son." And she continued to speak like to these words to Joseph, and she was still. And Joseph heard this, and he wondered greatly at this, and he continued to weep. And after this, one of the Ishmaelites observed him crying and weeping on the grave, and his anger was kindled against him, and he drove him from there. He struck him and cursed him. And Joseph said to the men, May I find grace in your sight to take me back to my father's house, and he will give you abundance of riches. And they answered him, saying, Are you not a slave? And where is your father? And if you had a father, you would not already twice have been sold for a slave for so little value. That's what they saw. And their anger was still roused against him, and they continued to strike him and to punish him, and Joseph wept bitterly. And Yahweh saw Joseph's affliction, and Yahweh again struck these men and punished them, and Yahweh caused darkness to envelope or envelop. Right? There's two different ways to see that word. Two different, same message, envelope and envelop them on the earth. And the lightning flashed, and the thunder roared, and the earth shook at the voice of the thunder and of the mighty wind, and the men were terrified and did not know where they should go. Verse 45, and the beasts and the camels stood still, and they led them, but they would not go. They struck them, and they crouched on the ground, and the men said to each other, What is this that Elohim has done to us? What are our transgressions? What are our sins? That this thing has thus befallen us. Verse 46, and one of them answered and said to them, Perhaps on account of the sin of afflicting this slave, this thing has happened to us today. Now therefore strongly implore him to forgive us, that we will know on whose account this calamity befalls us. And if Elohim will have compassion over us, then we will know that all this comes to us on account of the sin of afflicting this slave. And the men did so. And they supplicated Joseph and pressed him to forgive him. And they said, We have sinned to Yahweh and to you. Now therefore graciously request of Yahweh that he will put away his death from among us. We have sinned against him. Verse 48. Again, this is the whole big process. Again, just keeping everything in mind. It's really great. That's why I love reading Jasher. It really fills in everything. I wish it was never removed, but glad it came to be found again. Right? Verse 48. And Joseph did according to their words, and Yahweh listened to Joseph, and Yahweh put away the plague which he had inflicted on those men on account of Joseph. Also a precursor, a foreshadowing of what happened later in Kemet. Being skillful in the echo helps you see this as well. Yeah. Joseph did according to the words, and the beast rose up from the ground, and they conducted them, and they went on, and the raging storm abated, and the earth became tranquilized, being abased and abounded, the same thing as well, so that it inserted in there. And the men proceeded on their journey to go down to Egypt, and the men knew that this calamity had befallen said to each other, Behold, we know that it was on account of his affliction that his calamity befell us. Now therefore, why will we bring this death on our souls? Like knowing if we go any further, just dropping them off anywhere, that's not going to work, right? Let us hold counsel what to do to this slave. Verse 50. And one answered and said, Surely he told us to therefore, come, let us take him back. And we will go to the place that he will tell us and take him from his family, the price that we gave for him, and then we will go away. And one answered again and said, Behold, this counsel is very good, very righteous, but we cannot do so, for the way is very far from us, obviously why Joseph was crying, and we cannot go out of our road. We cannot go out of our road. That says a lot. Verse 52. And one more answered and said, This is the counsel to be adopted. We will not swerve from it. Behold, we are going to Egypt this day. We will have, and when we will have to come to Egypt, we will sell him there at a high price, and we will be delivered from this evil. And this thing pleased the men, and they did so, and they continued their journey to Egypt with Joseph. We're about at the end of it. About at the end. And when the sons of Jacob had sold their brother Joseph to the Midianites, their hearts were smitten on account of him. And they regretted their acts, and they sought for him to bring him back, but could not find him. And Reuben, here he goes again, knowing his name and his meaning, returned to the pit, in which Joseph, knowing his name and his meaning, had been put, in order to lift, knowing Reuben's meaning, him out, restore him to his father. And Reuben stood by the pit, Remembering what the pit means. Not a place of rejection, but where value is hidden. Being a seed put into a pit, right? Right? Same love, Ox. Same love. Um, do, do, do. And did not hear a word. And when he called out, right? So that's the shout. So don't be shook by the shout, but be skillful in the echo. He called out, Joseph, Joseph, and not one answered or uttered a word. And Reuben said, Joseph has died through fright, or some serpent has caused his death. So knowing what serpent means, a form of wisdom and all that, all in the pit, all of this metaphorical meaning. And Reuben descended into the pit, remembering again what Reuben means. And he searched for Joseph and could not find him in the pit. And he came out again, and Reuben tore his garments, and he said, the child is not here. And how will I reconcile my father concerning him if he is dead? And he went to his brothers and found them grieving on account of Joseph, and counseling together how to reconcile their father concerning him. And Reuben said to his brothers, I came to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not there. So what happened to my brother? um, what then will we say to our father? For my father will only seek the youth from me. Knowing again what Reuben, his name means, knowing again, being the oldest, the eldest. Verse 5, and his brothers answered him, saying, thus, and thus we did. And afterwards our heart struck on us. Our heart struck us on account of this act. So it said, thus and thus we did, and afterwards our heart struck us on account of this act. And we now sit to seek a pretext how we will reconcile our father to it. And Reuben said to them, what is this you have done to bring down the gray hairs of our father in sorrow to the grave? The thing that you have done is not righteous. And Reuben sat with them, and they all rose up and swore to each other not to tell this thing to Jacob. And they all said, the man who will tell this to our father or household, or will report this to any of the children of the land, we will all rise up against him and slay him with the sword. Basically, they're going to call him a snitch. Right? Verse 8. And the sons of Jacob feared each other in this matter, from the youngest to the oldest, and no one spoke a word. And they concealed the thing in their hearts. And afterward they sat down to determine and invent something to say to their father concerning all these things. And Issachar, remember that from the study, said to them, here is an idea for you. Him being a deliverer of a message, moving swiftly as a deer, right? If it seems righteous in your eyes to do this thing, take the coat which belongs to Joseph, remembering what Joseph's name means, and tear it, and take the blood of a kid of the goats. Remember what goats represent. Sheep do not stay around goats for too long because they'll learn the actions of the goats. They'll start butting their heads and stuff like that if you leave them around goats too long. And dip it in its blood or its working, its circulating thing. 11, then send it to our father, and when he sees it, he will say, an evil beast has devoured him. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Oh, well, technically 3, but we're not going in today. Semicolon. Therefore, tear his coat, and behold, his blood will be on his coat, and by your doing this, we will be free of our father's murmurings. And Issachar's advice pleased them, and they listened to him, and they did according to the word of Issachar, which he had counseled them. Hastened and took Joseph's coat and tore it, and they off the kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood of the kid, and then trampled it in the dust. So covered it with the works of, that part of the earth, that part of the dust, right? Sorry about that. I caught that. And they sent the coat to their father Jacob. No, I'm sorry. That wasn't Issachar. That was Naphtali. Moving with the message. Issachar means something totally different. The image coming from what's planted from the wall of protection towards the source of the head of kingdom. That's what Issachar was given. So the image of from what's being planted. So the reaction, and then here comes Naphtali. So that was for that catch. Let's see. And they sent the coat to their father Jacob by the hand of Naphtali with the messenger. They commanded him to say these words: we have gathered in the cattle and have come as far as the road to Shechem and father when we found his coat on the road in the wilderness, dipped in blood and in dust. Now therefore discern whether it is your son's coat or not. And Naphtali went, and he came to his father and gave him the coat. And he spoke to him all the words which his brothers had commanded him. And Jacob saw Joseph's coat, and he knew it. And he fell on his face to the ground and became as still as a stone. And afterward he rose up and cried out with a loud and weeping voice. And he said, It is the coat of my son Joseph. And Jacob hastened and sent one of his servants to his sons, who went to them, and found them coming along the road with the flock. And the sons of Jacob came to their father about evening, and behold, their garments were torn, and dust was on their heads, comes from mourning. And they found their father crying out and weeping with a loud voice. And Jacob said to his sons, Tell me truthfully, what evil have you suddenly brought on me this day? And they answered their father Jacob, saying, We were coming along this day after the flock had been gathered in, and we came as far as the city of Shechem by the road in the wilderness. And we found the coat filled with blood on the ground. And we knew it, and we sent it to you to see if you could discern it. That says a lot right there. And Jacob heard the words of his sons, and he cried out with a loud voice. And he said, It is the coat of my son. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is torn in pieces. For I sent him this day to see whether it was well with you and well with the flocks, and bring me word from you again. And he went as I commanded him, and this has happened to him this day. I thought my son was with you. And the sons of Jacob answered him and said, He did not come to us, although he did. Neither have we seen him from time of our going out from you until now. And when Jacob heard their words, he cried aloud again, and he rose up and tore his garments, and he put sackcloth on his loins. Something that a message had to come from this, right? Remember we talked about sackcloth and the meaning of that. It must bring testimony. It must bring resolve. It must bring solution, for there is always a solution. A sackcloth makes you itch, gives you motivation for a purpose. From the tearing of his garment, from mourning comes this, right? He wept bitterly and mourned and lifted up his voice in weeping and exclaimed and said these words, My son Joseph, I sent you this day after the welfare of your brothers, and behold, you have been torn in pieces through my hand, and this has happened to you, my son. It grieves me for you, my son Joseph. It grieves me for you. How sweet you were to me during life, and now how exceedingly bitter is your death to me. Oh, that I have died in your stead, or that I had died in your stead, my son Joseph, for it grieves me sadly for you. He's lamenting. Verse 30, and Jacob, we're going to skip down to verse 30, and Jacob continued to speak like these words concerning Joseph and wept bitterly. He fell to the ground and became still. All the sons of Jacob, seeing their father's trouble, regretted what they had done, and they also wept bitterly. Right? Verse 32, and Judah rose up and lifted his father's head from the ground and placed it on his lap, and he wiped his father's tears from his cheeks. And Judah wept an exceedingly great weeping, while his father's head was reclining on his lap, still as a stone. And the sons of Jacob saw their father's trouble, and they lifted up their voices and continued to weep, and Jacob was yet lying on the ground, still as a stone. And all his sons and all his servants and his servants' children rose up and stood around him to comfort him, and he refused to be comforted. And the whole household of Jacob rose up and mourned a great mourning on account of Joseph and their father's trouble. And the intelligence reached Isaac, the son of Abraham, the father of Jacob, and he wept bitterly on account of Joseph. So that tells you about the family account too, the coming together of family. We were still always connected. This news of Joseph went all the way to Isaac. He heard that his nephew, the news about his nephew, he began to mourn, right? I'm telling you, I looked away for 1 second. Here we go. Verse 35, and the whole household of Jacob rose up and mourned a great mourning on account of Joseph and their father's trouble. And the intelligence reached Isaac, the son of Abraham, the father of Jacob, and he wept bitterly on account of Joseph, he and all his household. And And he went from the place where he dwelt in Hebron, and his men with him, and he comforted his son Jacob, and refused to be comforted. And he refused to be comforted. And after this, Jacob rose up from the ground, and his tears were running down his cheeks. And he said to his sons, "Rise up and take your swords and your bows, and go out into the field, and seek whether you can find my son's body, and bring it to me, that I may bury it. Please also seek among the beasts and hunt them, and that which will first come before you seize it, and bring it to me." So before you even do anything from it, do anything about it, right? "Perhaps Jehovah will pity my affliction this day, and prepare before you that which has torn my son in pieces, and bring it to me, and I will avenge the cause of my son." And his sons did this, as his father had commanded him, and they rose up early in the rising, or in the morning, and each took his sword and his bow in his hand. And they went out into the field to hunt the beast. A lot of this means a lot. Like it's marinating as I'm reading. We're not going to keep stopping, but it says a lot. It's saying a lot. With the meaning of the sword and the meaning of the bow, a lot. There's a lot in there. It foreshadows to a lot. Verse 39. And Jacob was still crying aloud and weeping and walking to and fro in the house, and striking his hands together, saying, "My son Joseph, my son Joseph." He's lamenting. He's mourning. And the sons of Jacob went into the wilderness to seize the beast. And behold, a wolf came toward them, and they seized him. And they brought him to their father. And they said to him, of course it will be a wolf, right? They said to him, "This is the first we have found. We have brought him to you as you commanded us. And we could not find your son's body." And Jacob took the beast from the hands of his sons, and he cried out with a loud and weeping voice, holding the beast in his hands, and spoke with a bitter heart to the beast. "Why did you devour my son Joseph? How did you have no fear of Elohim in the earth, or of trouble for my son Joseph?" Even Jacob knew how it worked. Like, why weren't you in order? Like you're supposed to know who he is on this level. "Why did you devour my son Joseph? And how did you have no fear of Elohim, have no fear of the Elohim of the earth, or of my trouble for my son Joseph? And you devoured my son for nothing, because he committed no violence, and therefore thereby rendered me culpable on this account. Therefore Elohim will require him that is persecuted." And Jehovah opened the mouth of the beast in order to comfort Jacob with its words, and he answered Jacob and spoke these things to him. Again, him meditating in thought from the shout or the search or the request. Meditating, hearing what comes from meditating, sending motion from thought, and thought coming back in motion. This is what's going on here. Not to be too crazy, right? But, however, not throwing it out the window. But one thing we can know for sure, right? At the same time, let's keep going. Yeah, open the mouth of the beast in order to comfort Jacob with his words, and answered Jacob and spoke these words to him. As Elohim lives, who created us in the earth, and as your souls live, my Lord, I did not see your son, neither did I tear him into pieces. But from a distant land, I also came to seek my son, who went from me this day, and I do not know whether he is living or dead. And I come into the field to seek my son on this day, and your sons found me, and seized me, and increased my grief, and have brought me before you this day, and I have now spoken all my words on you. So there's a revelation feeling, a revealing feeling that this animal ain't had nothing to do with it, type of thing. Interaction levels, connectivity with nature, it goes deeper, it goes deeper, it goes deeper. Again, what we all knew was the nature of things, how to tell the seasons. We were given signs and wonders, signs and seasons in our time. That's what was given to us. But there was connectivity. There was different connectivity that got lost over time through lands of captivity, through different doctrines, things like that. We've lost ways to do these things. But just like how we could talk to our pets, talk to our dogs, and they can understand exactly what we're saying. Still along those lines, right? So can't throw everything out the window. It's just that you got to have the garden mind, the mind of the garden. To have the mind of the garden is to be in the garden. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot. It's not a thing. Many people see that and be like, "Oh no," he said, "No, it's not. It's not that." Not to mock anybody either, but really got to be of the way and really got to have an ear to hear what people are saying. There's never an end to studying the Bible, the scrolls. There's never an end to gaining knowledge. We're almost done too. We're gonna read through the letter end of 44, then we're done. But yeah, always remember that. Always remember that. Let's get back. We're gonna clean this up because we're gonna read through verse 12 of chapter 44, and then we're done. We're done for today. Walking into die for everybody for walking this with me. Kind of forget sometimes that it's something like this, you know. I feel like it's just sitting here with fam, just chilling, reading, you know. Let's keep going. We're about to close it out. As he came to the field to seek his son, right? Verse 46, now therefore, O son of man, I am in your hands, and do to me this day as it may seem good in your sight, as it may seem righteous in your sight. But by the life of Allah who created me, I did not see your son, nor did I tear him to pieces, neither as the flesh of man enter my mouth the days of the life, all the days of my life. Oh man, okay. Excuse me, select. Verse 47. When Jacob heard the words of the beast, he was greatly astonished, and sent the beast out from his hands, and she went her way. That says a lot right there too. Jacob was crying aloud and weeping for Joseph day after day, and he mourned for his son many days. But we're going to end what happened with Joseph, and then we're flashback to Joseph, where he's going through on that camel with the Ishmaelites, right? Still heading towards Kemet. Joshua does a lot of flashing back and forth, so be able to keep up, keep that pen and notes ready to be able to keep up where they are in the story, so that way you're able to walk this thing out for real, All right. All right. Chapter 44, and it says, and the sons of Ishmael, who had brought Joseph from the Midianites, who had brought him from his brothers, went to Egypt with Joseph, and they came on the borders of Egypt. They came near Egypt. They met 4 men of the sons of Medan, the son of Abraham. Come on now, the Joshua tells you all about it. Who had gone out from the land of Egypt on their journey. And the Ishmaelites said to them, do you desire to purchase this slave from us? And they said, deliver him over to us. There was some patriarchal things, issues going on, misconceptions, miscommunications, really, from where to where. The point is miscommunications. But even to this day, others look down upon others from side to side. If you want to go there, it's around the board. It's all around the board, all around. Verse 2, and the Ishmaelites said to them, do you desire to purchase this slave from us? And they said, deliver him to us. And they delivered Joseph over to them, and they beheld him, that he was very handsome youth, and they purchased him for 20 shekels. Again, 20 crests, going in again across another line, keeping that in mind. That 20 came up again. Hebrew character thing. If you know, you know. Verse 3, and the Israelites continued their journey to Egypt, and the Medanim. Okay, yeah, with that accent, with that dialect. Yeah, the Medan, the people of Medan, Medanim. There we go. Also returned to Egypt that day. And the Medanim said to each other, behold, we have heard that Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. So Pharaoh meaning leader. They called everybody Pharaoh. Pharaoh. That's what they put up there, like king or Malachi. They would say Pharaoh. So boom. Joseph, the one always planted in the proper position, ends up all the way here. The Ishmaelites took him to another son of Abraham, right? And they asked them if they wanted the slave, looking at the patriarchal way, always planted in the right place, but no harm coming from him. They relay the message. We have been told that Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, seeks a servant who will stand before him to attend and make him overseer over his house, and all belonging to him. Verse 4, now therefore come, let us sell him to him for what we may desire, if he is able to give to us that which we will require for him. Verse 5, and these Midianim went and came to the house of Potiphar and said to him, we have heard that you seek a righteous servant to attend you. Behold, we have a servant that will please you. If you can give to us that which we may desire, and we will sell him to you. And Potiphar said, bring him before me, and I will see him. And if he pleases me, I will give to you that which you may require for him. I know they didn't talk like this back in the day, because this is what my mind is saying. Verse 6, we read that over as we close. And Potiphar said, bring him before me, and I will see him. And if he pleases me, I will give to you that which you may require for him. Verse 7, and the Midianim went and brought Joseph and placed him before Potiphar. And he saw him, and he pleased him exceedingly. And Potiphar said to them, tell me what you require for this youth. And they said, we desire 400 pieces of silver for him. 400 rest times 2. Also as well. Rest the 20th character, but the meaning 200 in count. 200 and 200, 400 pieces of silver. That's a breakdown to Hebrew character. Kind of cool message in that. And Potiphar said, I will give it to you if you bring me the record of his sale to you, and will tell me his history, for perhaps he may be stolen, for this youth is neither a slave nor the son of a slave. He could already tell that. But I observe in him the appearance of an attractive and handsome person, the image of somebody. Being properly planted, we are seen. Our presence, our occurrence, us walking into the room shifts itself. Not being louder, not being more crazier, not being more wilder, but rooted. It's seen for those that have an eye to see, and even in that foreshadows a lot, as many of us know the story of how this keeps going. But we're gonna keep reading. He observes in him the appearance of an attractive, handsome person. Verse 9: the Midianim went and brought to him the Ishmaelites who had sold him to them, and they told him, saying, he is a slave, and we sold him to them. And Potiphar heard the words of the Ishmaelites, and is giving the silver to the Midianim, and the Midianim took the silver and went on their journey. Ishmaelites also returned home. Verse 11, and Potiphar took Joseph and brought him. Joseph, what his name means. And Potiphar took Joseph and brought him to his house, right? That he might serve him. And Joseph found favor in the sight of Potiphar, and he placed confidence in him and made him overseer over his house. And he delivered all that belonged to him over into his hand. Talking about Joseph, Yahasab. Verse 12, and Yahweh was with Yahasab, and he became a prosperous man, still always being planted in the right place. And Yahweh blessed the house of Potiphar for the sake of Yahasab, and Potiphar left all that he had in the hand of Yahasab, and Yahasab was one that caused things to come in and go out. That's also that's why we ended there. Joseph was one that caused things to come in and go out, and the expanding and contracting natures of things, being properly planted from Yah in the right place. He allowed things to go in and come out his way. His job was even, his name was even his job, right? Being properly planted in the right place, you see what comes in and goes out. This process of thinking, simply put, this thing is pretty simple. We're of this family. This shouldn't be happening. He's reasoning out loud to the point where it irritates the spirit that took over his brothers at that point, but it still had him in a way. His purity, even lamenting, even irritated the spirits that were in the way of pushing him along, but still the unrighteous ones, still irritating things, expanding, contracting the ways of the earth so much to still shift him into the proper place. Now being in control still of what comes in and goes out, and everything was regulated by his wish in the house of Potiphar. So, all together, we are done. To the fam for walking with me. But however long that was, a couple hours, but it was righteous though. It was righteous, but altogether, it came from there's always a place, a point of turning around. Keep your mind, your eye on the righteous direction. From Reuben, things can be settled in, insatiable things, insatiable things, things that make you desire other things, other ways. That's where he went to. He tried to see other things in other ways. He tried to push things in certain directions. He tried to see things in different ways. He tried to be lukewarm. That's not going to work. Out here with me teaching people when we're walking about these ways of life. This is just something that could definitely be used, but part of my testimony for the week, pretty much. That's all this is. That's all this is. But thank you for walking with me, fam. Let's see. Yes, always remember too, the view of the garden is the garden in the body, which becomes the guarded body. Keep the mind of the garden, you'll be able to see things. Get that grounding in too. That's what we started with. Get that grounding in. I was out there this rising for at least 30 minutes. Early this rising and saw many different things, absorbed many different things. Felt great. So each Shabbat is going to be a practice for sure, from my end. But yes, coming out of the Feast of Unleavened Bread as well. It's not a turnaround point, but still a turning point. Turning is turning, right? Turning is turning, stirring is stirring. Things come up from this, but coming up out of that season in a renewing mind. Not that you lost the way or lost the sense of things, but in a renewed way for this season, for everything wild going on now. Not that it shakes us at all, because these things must happen. And until heaven and earth shall pass away, Adat Shamayam, Shamayam Adat, shall pass away. And we know that this is our place to reign. So as nature goes, continue with the nature of things. If nature's still here, I'm still here. I still have purpose. I shall not pass away. Just for me personally, my testimony. That's how I view things, and it helps out a lot, especially with people, because people gonna people. I'm telling you that. People gonna people for sure. But stay in tune, stay planted, stay rooted. Don't be sifted up by it. Stay on point. Stay on purpose. Keep that mind clear. Ask for the sound mind every rising. Keep that mind clear to absorb things that you see and hear. Even the bird calls and stuff like that. Even the emotions of things, But yeah, that's it. There's many ways we could expand upon that thought, right? But yeah, let's pray it out. And as we pray it out, Big Brother, you want to play something that you like to play? Being the David of Dawid, how he was and how he is in his ways and songs and hymns and stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna pray it out, and then Big Brother is on you. Matter of fact, let me shut the door for this one. We're gonna get into it with this one. Abba, to die for another great revealing, another great time, another great purpose, another great walk. For where again divine timing allowed it to be that time wasn't felt as it passed as we walked through this thing. And to die for showing your way and your purpose, even though scratching and clawing at the door for something to see, not always, not that it was a sign, wonder, or miracle that wanted to be seen, but just something that resembles something. But being planted in the right place is still a resemblance, it's still a way to see things, to hear things, and it's even in a greater way, as your purpose is to see that the mind of a garden is to be guarded in the body, to have a guarded body, because without that, we're not going to look outside of that vision. Without that, there is no understanding. We have to be aware of things, and I thank you for putting them in front of us so that we do have understanding of a sound mind. Thank you for the safety. Thank you for everything in my mind. No vain babbling. We're gonna go ahead and cut it there. But thank you for family. Thank you for family all together, all in all. In your Sham, Hashem Yahava, Hashem Yahashpai, Hashem Rabak HaKodash, Aman, and Aman. All right, Baba Kashah says, good night, everybody. We're walking through. Big Brother, it is on you, sir. Everybody going through. Oh, yeah, and brother. Yeah, all right.